नमस्कार। बजट से जुड़ी आशाओं, आकांक्षाओं, अपेक्षाओं और चुनौतियों के कार्यक्रम उम्मीदों का बजट में आपका स्वागत है। मैं हूं टीना और मेरे साथ हैं मेरे सहयोगी फ्रैंक रोजन परेरा। कोविड-19 ने हमारी जिंदगी के हर पहलू को प्रभावित किया है। शिक्षा भी इससे अछूती नहीं रही। जहां पिछले साल इस वक्त तक डिजिटल एजुकेशन के विस्तार और प्रसार को लेकर हम चर्चा ही कर रहे थे, आज लगभग हमारा पूरा शिक्षा तंत्र ही डिजिटल माध्यम से चल रहा है। लेकिन डिजिटल एजुकेशन सबके लिए आसान या सुविधाजनक नहीं है। ट्राई के दिसंबर तक के आंकड़ों के मुताबिक देश के 73 करोड़ 48 लाख लोगों के पास इंटरनेट की सुविधा है। इसमें 55% लोग शहरी और 45% लोग ग्रामीण इलाकों में रहते हैं। यानी अब भी बड़ी जनसंख्या के पास इंटरनेट की सुविधा देश में नहीं है। और दूसरी तरफ नई शिक्षा नीति यानी न्यू एजुकेशन पॉलिसी है, जिसका उद्देश्य पढ़ना और पढ़ाना नहीं बल्कि सीखना और सिखाना है। तो कुल मिलाकर कहें तो शिक्षा क्षेत्र की जरूरतें पहले जैसी बिल्कुल नहीं रही। बजट से इस क्षेत्र को काफी उम्मीदें हैं। तो आज की चर्चा में हम बात करेंगे शिक्षा क्षेत्र की बजट से उम्मीदों पर।
Absolutely. The last 2 years, whenever we've spoken about education, it has all been about the new education policy like Tina has just spoken about. And also, let's not forget, 10 months of the pandemic has taught us one thing, that is ed technology or ed education. And that's what we've seen happening in schools, colleges, or any form of education. Welcome to our special series Budget of Hope 2020-21. This show has been on air for the last 1 week. Over the last week, we've looked at several of the important sectors, be it manufacturing, rural economy, agriculture, infrastructure, housing, and exports even. Today, we will focus on education. We will talk about what we can expect from the Finance Minister on budget day as far as the education sector is concerned. The NEP has shown us some kind of a direction as far as what shape we could see education taking over the next few years. But before we begin our discussion with our set of panelists, let's take a look at some information on education.
All eyes will be on the funds earmarked for education sector in this year's budget presentation on February 1st. The announcement of the most awaited new education policy last year is seen as a game changer in giving a boost to education. The union budget is also expected to contain some key proposals on the education. Expenditure in education sector as percentage of GDP increased from 2.8% in 2014-15 to 3.1% in 2019-20, indicating the measure of its importance for the Modi government. Over the years, spending on education has increased. From Rs 72,000 crore in 2016-17, the budget allocation increased to Rs 80,000 crore in 2017-18 and in 2018-19 and to Rs 94,800 crore in 2019-20. This rose further to 99,311 crore in 2020-21. Total budgetary allocation for the HRD ministry rose by 4,457.88 crore in 2020-21 compared to 2019-20. India will have the highest population of young people in the world over the next decade, and high-quality educational opportunities to them will determine the future of our country. Universal high-quality education is thus the best way forward for maximizing India's talent. The Union Cabinet in July 2020 approved a new education policy aimed at universalization of education from preschool to secondary level. The NEP proposes sweeping changes to improve the education system, including opening up of higher education to foreign universities, dismantling the UGC and All India Council for Technical Education, introduction of 4-year multidisciplinary undergraduate program with multiple exit options, and discontinuation of the MPhil program. In a significant shift from 1986 policy, which pushed for a 10+2 structure of school education, the NEP pitches for a 5+3+3+4 designed corresponding to age groups 3 to 8 years, that is foundational stage, 8 to 10 years, 8 to 11 years, preparatory, 11 to 14, middle, and 14 to 18 years, secondary. The NEP says students until class 5 should be taught in their mother tongue or regional language. The midday meal program will be extended to preschool children. Government school meal program, which provides hot cooked meal to children of primary and upper primary school students to improve the nutritional status of children and encourage poor children to attend school, is the largest such program in the world. Under this, over 12 crore children in over 12 lakh schools and education centers are regularly served meals. Year-wise outlay under midday meals scheme has increased from over rupees 9,447 crore in 2016-17. The budget outlay has increased to 9,514 crore in 2018-19. Rupees 9,919 crore in 2019-20 and rupees 11,000 crore in 2021. India has over 15 lakh schools, 2.46 lakh in urban areas and over 13 lakh in rural areas. These schools employ over 94 lakh 30,000 teachers. While 47.16 lakh teaching staff is female, schools employ 47.14 lakh male teachers. These teachers teaches over 24.83 crore students, of whom 11.94 crore are girls and 12.88 crore are boys. Literacy is one of the most essential indicators of quality of a country's human capital. Latest data puts India's adult literacy at 74.04%, 82.14 for males and 65.46 for females. Government is continuously working to achieve 100% literacy in the country in the coming years. Expectations are high for education sector ahead of the upcoming budget, as the sector has potential to fulfill the dreams of the young nation. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
And well, Tina, talking about expectations, let's introduce our panel of guests on the program today and talk to them about what they expect as far as education is concerned from the budget. Joining our panel this evening, we have Rakesh Khar, editor, Money 9 TV9 Network. Also with us, Piyush Prakash, senior associate, education, Niti Ayog. TV Mohandas Pai, chairman, Manipal Global Education, also with us on the program. Anushika Jain, CEO, Global Shala, and Jyoti Gupta, principal, DPS Sahibabad. Thank you to all our panelists for joining us on the program this evening. TV Mohandas Pai, I'd like to begin the program with you first. Over the last few years, we've seen several edtech companies doing extremely well for themselves. Some of them have taken the lead really. A couple of them gone on to sponsor the IPL and the Indian cricket team even. And the pandemic over the last 10 months has shown us that this space has grown leaps and bounds. Is this something where you'd like to see the finance minister focus on in this upcoming budget?
Well, I would like the finance minister to focus on bridging the digital divide. What the pandemic has shown us is the fact that there is a digital divide in India. Maybe half the population of students in colleges and schools do not have access to the internet or to a tablet. And the impact of digital education on children and young people in college is very high. We are seeing the educated middle class children get access to digital education, while rural kids and the poorer kids are left behind. So I would urge the finance minister to tackle this. What we need is to make sure that 10 crore young children in school get a preloaded tablet with good software, which is easily available. We have more than 5 or 6 edtech unicorns in this country. So software and content is not a problem. Each of the tablet could cost 10,000 rupees to be a good tablet with a preloaded SIM. It'll cost about maybe 1 lakh crore, which is not a large amount of money. And we have more than 50,000 crores in the Universal Service Obligation Fund of the Telecommunication Ministry collected from all of us for giving access to Wi-Fi and improving digitization. So money should not be a problem. And this can also be a part of the PLI scheme so that we have made in India, Atmanirbhar Bharat manufacturing in this country. It'll kill two birds with one stone. And I think it's very important that bridging the digital divide is extremely important. And to me, everything is there in this country, but our young people require access. We have the content, we have rich multimedia, we have the connectivity across 98% of this country to Wi-Fi, and we can easily fix the problem. To me, that is the most important thing, and I'll be looking for that first. There are 2 or 3 other things I'll talk about later, but to me, bridging the digital divide, keeping in view Prime Minister Modi's call for, digital India in 2015, to me, that is the most important thing. We owe it to our children to give them access.
I think the time is also ripe, Rakesh Kar, for us to, go fully digital. If we can educate our masses, that's going to solve several of the problems like Mr. Pai has just suggested and has just pointed out.
Absolutely, Frank, I think it's very important to, underscore what Mr. Pai already said. But I would like to, slightly expand the canvas. One is the budgetary allocation, which he very clearly mentioned, to be tapped to make this possible. But also we must bring in an ecosystem. The budget should provide for an ecosystem where, the private sector, we have very large players who are making tablets, who are making laptops and desktops. All of them need to be integrated in one single mission. And it's not very difficult for them to also, they're all looking at, increasing their volumes and numbers. We have so many large number of students who need those tablets and laptops and desktops, and we have so many large manufacturers resident in this country. We just need to put the two together. The pandemic has, got them together in a very distinct, not yet very, cohesive manner. The budget should provide that ecosystem. And I think that if that happens, the demographic dividend that we keep talking about becomes a reality. Because we must admit that, the pandemic at one level accentuated the, digital literacy piece, but it has also showed the very dark underbelly of our government schools in the tier 3, tier 4 cities, which needs to be bridged. I would like to add here, it's very important and heartening to talk about the EdTech piece, which you very clearly mentioned. It's a very exciting space to be. And as a business journalist, I felt very happy with one major player, going to sponsor cricket team, and also, gobbling up another player in that business, because mergers and acquisitions are great. But all this should lead to very tangible on the ground outcomes. What is most important to my mind is that the school dropout rate, especially at the girl child, all these big ticket valuations, then one big company getting into another company, creating a large, structure, which is very good from a very pure play business perspective and P&L outcomes. But all this should translate in a very, very important transformation at the grassroots level. So I would like both Akash and say, Byju's, my fervent request to them would be that, great that you tied up and got into a collaboration. What are the outcomes in terms of the larger socioeconomic educational, outcomes that you must have in place for you? And if that is done and the budget becomes a fillip to do that, I think it will be the right road ahead. I'll come to other few points later once other speakers are also, so to say, have made
और
their
अब
points.
चर्चा में मैं डॉक्टर ज्योति गुप्ता को लाना चाहती हूँ। डॉक्टर ज्योति गुप्ता, स्वागत है आपका। और बहुत ही इंटरेस्टिंग डिस्कशन हो रहा है। हमारे दोनों पैनलिस्ट जो है वो बहुत ही बड़ी चुनौतियों के बाद अब हम नए साल में प्रवेश हमने किया है। अगर हम शिक्षा क्षेत्र की बात करें तो बाकी सेक्टर्स के साथ साथ बहुत बुरी तरह शिक्षा का क्षेत्र भी प्रभावित हुआ जब कोरोना महामारी आई, जब लॉकडाउन हुआ। सब्सिक्वेंटली धीरे धीरे हमने पिकअप किया। अब स्थिति जाकर काफ़ी बेहतर हुई है। डिजिटल डिपेंडेंस हमारा काफ़ी बढ़ गया है। तो ऐसे में अगर हम उम्मीदों की बात करें तो किस तरह की उम्मीदें हैं आने वाले बजट से, जो कि कोरोना के बाद आ रहा है और बहुत ही महत्वपूर्ण है?
मैं अगर प्राइवेट स्कूल्स की यहाँ पे बात करती हूँ तो वो बहुत ही बुरे तरीके से हिट हुए, क्योंकि जिस वक्त लॉकडाउन हुआ था बहुत सारे पेरेंट्स की जॉब्स चली गई थी। बहुत सारे पेरेंट्स जो हैं वो स्ट्रगल कर रहे थे, दे वर स्ट्रगलिंग टू मीट देयर डेली एक्सपेंसेस। उसकी वजह से वो लोग स्कूल की फ़ीस नहीं पे कर पाए थे, और क्योंकि स्कूल की फ़ीस नहीं पे कर पाए थे इसलिए स्कूल्स ने भी, टीचर्स के भी कुछ सैलरीज़ थे उनको भी डेफ़र किया था। बहुत सारे ऐसे छोटे बजट स्कूल्स हैं जो कि एकदम या तो बंद हो गए हैं या वो बिल्कुल ही बंद होने के किनारे पे खड़े हैं। तो बजट से हमें ये उम्मीद है कि हमें अलाउ किया जाएगा कि हम अपने स्कूल्स को अच्छे से रन कर सकें, पेरेंट्स जो हैं वो फ़ी पे कर सकें, क्योंकि जो प्राइवेट इंडिपेंडेंट स्कूल्स हैं जो कि सेल्फ सस्टेनेबल उस पे चलते हैं, वो उनके लिए एक जो एकमात्र ज़रिया है कुछ भी आने का, वो एकमात्र फ़ीस ही है। तो अगर फीस नहीं आएगी तो वो पूरा इकोसिस्टम बिगड़ जाता है।
बिल्कुल।
क्योंकि ना सिर्फ टीचर्स होते हैं, क्लास 4 एम्प्लॉयज़ भी होते हैं स्कूल में, और भी बहुत लोग डिपेंडेंट होते हैं इकोनॉमिकली स्कूल्स पे भी। तो वो सिर्फ एक शिक्षा का ज़रिया नहीं है बच्चों के लिए, but it is a complete ecosystem, so we have to take care of that also, because a large part of economy also has private schools. जहाँ तक गवर्नमेंट स्कूल्स की बात है तो डिजिटल का एक बहुत बड़ा अहमियत इस वक्त रही है, बट डिजिटल एजुकेशन हैज़ नॉट रीच्ड ऑल द चिल्ड्रन ऑल्सो। ऐसे में टेलीविज़न और रेडियो का माध्यम भी यूज़ किया गया है। हमें क्या करना चाहिए, बहुत सारी एडटेक कंपनीज ऐसी हैं जो टैबलेट्स बनाती हैं, जो कंप्यूटर्स बनाती हैं, लैपटॉप्स बनाते हैं, और उनके लिए ये चीज़ें बहुत जल्दी जो है वो रिडंडेंट हो जाती हैं, क्योंकि वो एक नई टेक्नोलॉजी पे चले जाते हैं। तो अगर एक पीपीपी के माध्यम से या सीएसआर के माध्यम से ये सारे टैबलेट्स और ये सारा जितना भी कंप्यूटर या लैपटॉप्स जो कि उनके लिए रिडंडेंट हो गए हैं, फ़ोन्स, ये अगर इन बच्चों के पास आ जाएंगे तो वो बच्चे भी बहुत ज़्यादा पढ़ पाएंगे।
बिल्कुल।
और थोड़ी सी अहमियत स्कूल्स की मैं कहूँगी कम हुई है इस टाइम में, क्योंकि कितना टेक्नोलॉजी से पढ़ाया जा सकता है ये पहले एक डिबेट थी। अभी ये चीज़ हम लोगों ने उसको एक कंस्ट्रक्टिव तरीके से देखा भी है। इसको हम और भी बहुत सारी प्रोग्राम्स हैं, जैसे दीक्षा प्लेटफॉर्म है, जिसके ऊपर सब टीचर्स ने अपना बहुत सारा मटेरियल डाला है, चाहे वो प्राइवेट स्कूल्स हैं, चाहे डिफरेंट स्टेट बोर्ड्स हैं, उन लोगों ने भी, SCRTs ने भी अपना बहुत सारा मटेरियल डाला है, और बच्चों को एक बहुत ही कम बैंडविड्थ पे ये जितना भी लर्निंग मटेरियल है वो अवेलेबल है। तो आगे जाके कहीं ना कहीं डिवाइसेस की जो सॉल्यूशन है उसको आना ही होगा, और सब बच्चों के पास हम लोगों को ये चीज़ लानी होगी, क्योंकि NEP भी जो है वो टेक्नोलॉजी पे बहुत हेविली डिपेंड कर रही है, और स्वयं प्रभा है या दीक्षा है, ऐसे प्लेटफॉर्म्स या PM ई-विद्या प्रोग्राम है।
बिल्कुल, टेक्नोलॉजी का बहुत ही अहम योगदान रहेगा। अनुशिका, एड्यूटेक सेक्टर का बड़ा इम्पोर्टेंट रोल रहा है, जैसा हमने देखा टीचिंग लर्निंग प्रोसेस में कंटिन्यूटी बरकरार रहे इतनी चुनौतियों के बावजूद। तो अब ये सेक्टर, क्योंकि जाहिर है कि उम्मीदें बहुत ज़्यादा रहेंगी इस सेक्टर को, तो जब निर्मला सीतारमण आप बजट पेश करेंगी तो हम क्या कुछ अपेक्षा रख सकते हैं इस पर्टिकुलर सेक्टर के लिए?
So I think as everyone has already covered कि हमारे पास devices का problem है, हमारे पास bandwidth का problem है, you know, like we need to empower edtech industries, schools, primary school, all these things are fine. But the main point where I would like to focus will be in our next budget, there should be a specific area or region where we are figuring out a way to empower small scale industries, small scale edtech, so that they can empower everyone else. We have seen like India is a very big space. बहुत ज़्यादा population है, बहुत सारे लोग हैं. If government tries to do everything on their own and directly tries to reach out to every individual one by one, it will happen, but it will definitely take time. The main focus where we can put in a short run to impact, you know, long run could be we empower small scale people or edtech platforms, those who are trying to create impact. For me, I think it will help us to create a multiplier effect or an exponential effect out of it. And that could be something that we can focus on. This will not only help us to focus on education or digitalization. At the same time, it will also empower our youth to get into entrepreneurship and create platforms for themselves. So that will also help us to encourage our youth to, you know, like support or get into Startup India or Teach India or innovation kind of things.
बिल्कुल, तो यूथ
So
को काफी
that will be
आकांक्षाएं
my
हैं
take-up.
इस बजट से फ्रैंक, और निर्मला सीतारमण इसको किस हद तक पूरा कर पाएंगी ये देखना होगा.
Absolutely. It's just a matter of 6 days' time. We have to wait for another week and all will be revealed and we know exactly how much of the purse Nirmala Sitharaman has opened up for the education sector this time around as well. Historically, of course, we have not done too well as far as spending on education is concerned, but hopefully that can change this time around. So let me take the discussion forward. Now let me bring in Piyush Prakash into the picture as well. He's been patiently listening to everything that's been happening. You know, Piyush, as far as education is concerned, you know, moving on from EdTech, moving on from the digital divide, you know, the last 15-20 minutes have been, we've been focusing heavily on what we can expect as far as digital education is concerned. Moving on from there, let's talk about, you know, some other aspects and some other schemes, some other areas where you believe we need special attention or special focus.
So what I'll say, like everybody talked about the, the digital divide that exists in the country, and nobody can deny that. And I agree that there should be more fund allocation to the, EdTech component of EdTech delivery of education. But equally important are a few other things. I'll just talk about a broader human capital development for the country. If you see, like, I'll just, cite some numbers. So if you just take into account the numbers suggested by the Nobel laureate James Heckman, he says the amount of funds that you spend upon education, that is a lot of return on investments. But this rate of investment actually decreases from preschool or even from birth to 5 till to the higher education. In the 0 to 5 years, you find that this particular return is almost around the tune of 13 to 16%, and it drops gradually from 7 to 10% and so on. So if you see the national education policy, they very highlights the foundational importance on foundational stage. So I'd like to see some announcement within the budget where we take some concrete steps toward universalizing the primary preschool education. And if you see, like, there's a latest survey that we have from the Ministry of WCD, and this data is from 2014, which says that close to 27% of the children in the country do not attend any preschool, and that has a direct impact on their learning outcomes. Another report from ASA you might be knowing, like, it says close to 30% of the school-going children are not school-ready. And why it is happening? Because most of them are not going to Anganwadis or any preschool services, and if they are going there, the quality of education or the component of education that they're getting within the Anganwadis is not optimal. So I would see, some sort of announcement or some concrete steps happening in the direction of preschool education. That would be one. And two, if you see the gross enrollment ratio, especially in the higher education, higher secondary, which directly is a pipeline to the higher education of the country. So there the GER drops to 58% from close to 78% at the secondary level. And then you see this pool of students who enter the higher school education, that is also shrinking. And as a result, we have just a 26.3% GR in the higher education, much below the developing nations average, which is 37%. So some concrete steps towards this would be required, maybe through open and distance learning, online degrees. IIT Madras recently started a degree in online, BSc online degree in programming and data science. So these two areas, if we try to measure and index the states, what has been their achievement in these areas, we'll be able to push the states or just nudge them towards filling these two gaps, which are very critical, as I just mentioned some economic figures, how they impact the overall economy. Yeah.
Certainly. TV Mohandas Pai, let me come back to you once again. You wanted to add a few more points in your opening remarks. You said that you'll come back to it later on. Go ahead, add those points. And also another aspect that I'd like to take up with you. Clearly everyone seems to want to focus on education, but let's not forget that the pandemic is still not over. We are focusing our resources on the pandemic. We are talking about vaccine distribution strategy. We are talking about inoculation of 130 crore people. So when our focus is going to be on the pandemic and trying to get rid of the pandemic, how much of the finance minister can actually focus on education in her budget?
Let me say this, India has to work in multiple areas. India has already got a program to vaccinate 300 million people. It'll get it done. India has handled the polio vaccine project. India has handled that. That will be done. Vaccination is not at the cost of children's education. We have been through 9 months of a terrible, terrible tragedy for this country. We must set it right. If crores of children have lost 1 year of school, it will set them back. And the biggest way is to make sure they participate in the digital revolution, because it is not a substitute for schools. It's not a substitute for actual teachers, but it will enhance learning. At least 25-30% increase in learning. It can be done very fast, and it can be done across the board. That's why I'm suggesting this scheme. Whatever, we heard just now about the wastage and all, that's going to take a lot of time. And also, we need to get into data. For example, India has 725 districts, if I'm right. Every district is different. It has to be a plan at the district level, not at the country level, because the country is so varied. For example, 46% of young people in Tamil Nadu go to college in the age group of 18 to 23. It is 13% in Bihar. You can't compare the two. Now, the two other big things that I would like to, in the budget, because the budget is all about financial allocation. It's not about educational policy. Money is required. Two other things is a large-scale program for people who are poor to get scholarships to get into college. You'll be very happy to know some data. Let me give you some data. SC is about 16.6% of population, 14.5% are in college. ST is about 8.6, 5.8% are in college. Backward communities are 40% of population, 36% in college, which is very good. Only the Muslims are behind, 15% of population, only 5.2%. But over the last 7 years, enrollment is going up by 7.6%, with girls doing better. It means that all communities are doing well. Poverty is a big issue to prevent them from going to any college of the choice. So let's have a national scholarship program. For example, 1 crore scholarships at 15,000 rupees a year, 15,000 crores. It's not a big sum of money. And the next thing which I would like is a 5,000 crore non-lapsable allotment to the National Research Foundation. Why is that? India has built capacity at the bottom of the pyramid in schools and colleges. We're going up the pyramid. It'll take us time. It's a big country. Nothing is going to happen overnight. Nothing can be done by throwing money. But innovation has to be built. It takes years. So the National Education Policy talks about the National Research Foundation. Give them a 5,000 crore grant, non-lapsable, so they can start doing research in 4 to 5 years. You must double the production of PhDs, double the amount of research that's being done in the universities, and that will really help us for the next 5, 6, 7 years. Because we must work at the top of the pyramid, not only at the bottom. If we don't work at the top at a time when the digitization, innovation, driving economies and value, we're going to be left behind. And we don't want to be a digital colony to somebody outside this country.
Right.
So I think these are the 2-3 things that need to be done, for which money can be allocated in the budget. But the work has to be done by other departments.
Absolutely. I think that's a very valid point that is raised there by Mr. Pai. As far as R&D is concerned, India spends much less than its global peers, about 0.7% of the GDP compared to about 2.8% by the US and 2.1% by China. So that should be a key focus area really as far as growing India is concerned.
बिल्कुल, और ये एक ऐसा मुद्दा रहा है फ्रैंक, रिसर्च और इनोवेशन, जिसको लेकर प्रधानमंत्री भी बार बार कहते रहते हैं, यंगस्टर्स को प्रोत्साहित करते रहते हैं रिसर्च और इनोवेशन में आगे बढ़ने के लिए। राकेश जी, रिसर्च की जहाँ तक बात करें तो हमने देखा है कि पिछले कुछ सालों में जिस तरह से प्रधानमंत्री इस बारे में बार बार लोगों का फोकस लाते हैं, यंगस्टर्स को एनकरेज करते हैं, लेकिन जिस तरह से फ्रैंक कह रहे हैं काफ़ी स्कोप है अभी भी इम्प्रूवमेंट का। क्या कुछ उम्मीद अब कर सकते हैं? अच्छी बात ये रही है कि चुनौतियों भरे साल के बाद हम देख रहे हैं कि नए साल में भारत ने ना सिर्फ 2 मेड इन इंडिया वैक्सीन बना करके उनको ऑथराइज किया है, बल्कि अब हम बाहर भी लोगों को भेज रहे हैं। तो ये एक बहुत ही अच्छा एग्जाम्पल है। इसको और बेहतर कैसे बना सकते हैं और बजट से इस क्षेत्र में क्या उम्मीद की जा सकती है?
Absolutely. Before I come to the R&D piece, I think it's very important to point out 2 very important factors. One is that, like Mr. Pai said, data is extremely critical. See, budget historically as a policy document talks about outlays. We need to measure them against outcomes. I think this budget, I would expect the Prime Minister and the Finance Minister to bring some sense of metrics to do outcomes as well. Because education is extremely critical from outcomes perspective to draw the, the demographic dividend, as Mr. Pai rightly pointed out. We keep allocating without much sense of what is actually happening on the ground. That's point number 1. Point number 2 is extremely important to showcase the virtue that Mr. Prime Minister has talked about, the welfare economics. When you talk of welfare economics as being his strong point, please understand education is not one single plank. It rests on 2 or 3 other key pillars. The entire social budget as a key adjunct factor to the education piece. So in that sense, we must look at the allocations and also the focus on education from the entire social budget that the government lays out in the finance budget as we see it on 1st Feb. And R&D, you talked about R&D. India has demonstrated to the world its power as a vaccine leader. It already was. Now, of course, if anyone had a doubt, that has been put to rest. And in the next few weeks and months, we will truly tell the world that we are the vaccine leader. Because right at the bottom of the pyramid and at the top of the pyramid, vaccine is a universal and it's extremely secular in that sense. So if we really need to harvest the pharma capital, we need to bring the R&D capability in a very big space. To do a drug discovery, I've said it earlier also, you need about $1 billion. So from drugs to to medical textiles to medical equipments, we need the entire ecosystem. I do see the finance minister laying a lot of emphasis on this entire stretch once we see the budget. So R&D would continue to be a focus. With the right outcomes, it should shine and make India a global leader. What is important also to tell is that the primary sector, with the COVID, we have to reimagine the primary school infrastructure, because right from the midday meal, the kids are not going to the schools. So when they're not in the school, we have to see how they're best, so to say, optimized in terms of what we give them, what are the returns, and how do we see that they stay mentally, physically, and educated at all levels. So that is what I think Niti Aayog is here on the panel. They need to think it all over, because COVID is not going right away. We need vaccines. It will take time to get everyone inoculated. So till that time, the primary piece has to be addressed afresh in view of COVID, and also primary is the key strength. My own view is that higher education is important. We've done well in that. But unless and until the foundation on which higher education rests is primary education, that is invested deeply. I want to see more and more private houses, big business houses getting into primary education. And Government of India must facilitate either through the budget or through a supplementary policy view. We have so many big ticket private players in higher education. Why is it that we have very few players in the primary education? Something must be amiss in the policy piece, or there isn't enough inducement for the private sector to do so. So I think that
पीयूष जी, ये बहुत ही इंटरेस्टिंग पॉइंट है जो राकेश जी ने उठाया है। इंडस्ट्री अकेडमिया पार्टनरशिप्स को और ज़्यादा एनकरेज करने के लिए सरकार से क्या कुछ उम्मीद कर सकते हैं?
अगर आप नेशनल एजुकेशन पॉलिसी को देखेंगे तो कई जगहों पर ये बार बार कहा जा रहा है कि हम लोग इंडस्ट्री को और एकेडमिया के बीच में काफ़ी ज़्यादा इंटरेक्शन और आप कह सकें तो एक परस्पर सहयोग के माध्यम से हम लोग आगे बढ़ना चाहिए। आई थिंक राकेश जी वाज टॉकिंग अबाउट कि हमें प्राइमरी एजुकेशन में कैसे हम लोग प्राइवेट सेक्टर को इंक्लूड कर सकते हैं। सो आई थिंक अभी बहुत सारे लो फी प्राइवेट स्कूल्स, हाई फी प्राइवेट स्कूल ऑलरेडी सेक्टर में हैं जो क्लोज टू 40% बच्चों को कैटर कर रहे हैं। बट जो वो कहना चाह रहे हैं मे बी हाउ सम फिलैंथ्रोपिक ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस कुड बी ब्रॉट इनटू द इकोसिस्टम, तो उसके लिए हमें क्या फैसिलिटीज़ और क्या पॉलिसी गाइडलाइंस होनी चाहिए। So, as a matter of fact, as the NAP says that there would be a guideline that would be issued by Ministry of Education that will incorporate how the clear-cut steps how to bring in more private players in the delivery of education for primary sector. One of the things which I see could be in EdTech, right? We just talked about it, and about the main challenge about the financing model. So how do you make it a workable model? One of the things which could just randomly could think of is like, why don't we use the school infrastructure in secondary school or even in elementary school, post school hours for skill development centers, and you charge the private player, and the infrastructure, the digital infrastructure remains in the school, which could be utilized by the students in the school hours. And NAPs also talks about bringing coding as a skill right from grade 6. So some innovative sort of partnerships will be required. And it will be a lot of brainstorming, which will require the public and private sector coming together and brainstorming on the issues and just proposing various ideas. In fact, we at Niti Aayog are holding multiple discussions with different private stakeholders, and we are in process of devising some of the strategies which could help NEP to be implemented effectively.
बिल्कुल फ्रैंक, शायद इसलिए जो मुद्दे पीयूष प्रकाश जी बता रहे हैं, जिस तरह से काम हो रहा है और जो NEP प्रॉमिस कर रहा है कि NEP का बिल्कुल लक्ष्य सीखना और सिखाना ही है.
Absolutely, and it looks like a lot of the aspects, a lot of the things that have been mentioned in the NEP are going to be given shape in the budget and in some other policies as well. Talking about the NEP also talks about amplifying the right to education by extending it to all age groups between the age of 3 to 18 years of age. Anushika, let me come across to you now. You know, how important is this aspect, do you think, as far as ensuring that the entire populace is educated? How do we take everyone along? If you can unmute, please.
Yeah, it's like...
yeah, go ahead. We can hear you now.
Yeah. Talking about this, I would like to highlight a few more areas out here. We have been focusing on pre-education, then secondary education, then PhD, and so on and so forth. But I believe that we are in the era where we need to get ourselves involved into lifelong learning. Okay. Our education system, our government, everyone is working so hard to introduce new concept, coding as a skill, and like having education at all level. But we really don't know whether the job that we are preparing our students to work for will even exist after 10 years or not. So it will be very important to focus on making the future of work aligned with the education system now. And we can have our R&D group working on maybe 21st century skills or experiential learning, just to make sure our youth is prepared about what is going to happen with them in future. They should not feel like my parents dreamed of me becoming a pilot. Now, AI is flying the planes. So that is something that we should be heavily focusing on. And at the same time, we need to build it from the very starting, that just having a college degree or a PhD degree is not enough. We have a lot of people who are PhD holders, but technology and smartphone came after they did their PhD. So now they are learning it. It's not like when they were doing their PhD, people tell them that, this is how smartphone works. They are able to use smartphones now because they are into learning every day. And that is something we should heavily focus on. It is not going to end after primary school, not even secondary school, not even PhD. We have to think beyond preschool to PhD concept. It has to be lifelong learning.
Right.
And the skills is, we can develop accordingly, like leadership, codings, flexibility, and things like that.
Frank, can I make a point?
Go ahead.
Yeah,
Go ahead,
sure.
Mr. Pai.
When we talk about schools, very often we don't understand the issue. Tell me, what is the difference between a good school and a bad school? A good school has good management, good headmaster. A bad school has a bad headmaster, bad management. That's as simple as it is. You have a good headmaster, he'll run the school very well. Teachers will come on time, classes will be held, exams will be done, etc. So it's a leadership issue. India has 16 lakh schools, 60% of government schools. The balance of private. 60-70% of private schools are very small schools with no cable TV, very poor quality. Poor people go there and pay some fees, 300 to 500 rupees. Center Square Foundation has got a report because they want to learn English. Because all the state schools teach the state language is not wrong. I mean, they should teach English as a language because parents' aspiration is there. So I think what we need to do is we must have a leadership training program for all headmasters, government schools and private schools. We must tell private people to come and set up schools on a twinning basis. If we set up a school in Delhi, they must set up a school in the rural area and educate children. My friend Chenra Jain runs a very good private school in Bangalore, but he's educating 3,000 village children just 40 kilometers away from Bangalore at free of cost. It is cross-subsidized. Now, what government policy done is they don't allow you to start the private school. They don't allow you to charge any fees, like in Delhi. They control everything. How can you have good teachers? How can you do it? Education is expensive. We have to understand that, yes, we have to take care of the poor. We have an obligation. So we must twin one for one. So we got to think of very innovative ways to do it. Next issue I want to talk about is we must have district plans. Because the district in Jharkhand, the district in Bihar is very different from district in Bangalore. You can't have the same policy. I mean, all of us understand this. We are all being stuck with that India policy, finance minister doing something, Delhi doing something. Delhi is not India. We have to percolate down. That's why in good countries mean developed countries, you have district boards of education. Each district becomes a center because the district could be maybe 20 lakh people, maybe 3 lakh children, easy to manage, easy to monitor. We must bring it down. I'll just end by saying, for government has three roles in education, school or college. One is to make policy. Policy should be for all children, for all students all across the country to take care of the requirements. Second is the regulator, to ensure that the policy is followed, people are not cheated. And the third is the provider of services, because they run schools. As the provider of services, government should be held to the same standard as anybody else. 40% of government schools don't produce any good results. What happened to them? Teachers are well paid. Minimum salary is 5 to 6 lakhs a year. What happens to them? Why is government not able to enforce quality and get? See, these are the issues that you must address.
ज्योति जी, इस बात पर आपकी एक प्रतिक्रिया लेना चाहूंगी। जब हम रीच, इक्विटी और क्वालिटी की साथ साथ बात कर रहे हैं, जैसा कि मिस्टर पाई ने अभी कहा, तो किस तरह का फोकस रहना चाहिए, किस तरह की एक्सपेक्टेशन सरकार से करें ताकि इन तीनों पर हमारा फोकस बरकरार रहे?
Mr. Pai, when he says that the regulators and the people who are running the show should be different, the regulations should be similar for the government schools as well as for the private schools. Only then we can talk about equity. Only then we can talk about equal opportunities for all the children. It should not be that it's only in the government schools that we have good teachers or we can pay well to the teachers. It should always be there in the private schools also. So again, somewhere all the schools have to come together, and it's very right if if district boards can be put together, though the education is on a concurrent list. Both the center and the state, formulate the policies for the education, but primarily it is the state's responsibility. So if the state like Uttar Pradesh is a huge state with a lot of diversity even in different districts, so if we can set the goals for the districts, it's only then that we can talk about the quality education. Now, if we look at PISA as a benchmarking exam, we did not participate last year in the PISA exam, last time in the PISA exam, and before that when we participated, we were really low on our ranking. So if we want quality to come in and we want the foundational literacy and numeracy amongst the children to be really good, then we have to have a focus on the education of all the children across, not just private schools and the government schools. Also, at this point of time, all the private schools are the MSMEs. So there should be some policy in this budget which is also bailing out these schools who are in trouble because of the fee not coming in, because they are not able to pay salaries to the teachers, they are not able to attract good talent. Now, it's very few talented young children who come into education. There are people the children want to go and work in all other sectors. They don't want to come to education as a sector because they feel that they do not get paid enough. So something should be done about the salaries of these teachers also. If you are going to participate in the nation building and you're going to give the future of the country to the you are educating the future of the country, you have to look after those people. You have to make this career as a lucrative career so that good children come into teaching. They want to be a part of the education and they get engaged in it.
बिल्कुल पीयूष प्रकाश जी, आज हम जिस परिप्रेक्ष्य में है वहाँ एक ब्लेंडेड एजुकेशन की बात कर रहे हैं। फोकस डिजिटल एजुकेशन पर ज़रूर है, लेकिन कहीं ना कहीं ज़रूरत डिजिटल इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर और फिजिकल इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर दोनों को मजबूत करने की है। तो आगे अगर हम देखें तो बजट और उसके बाद भी और पिछले कुछ सालों में जो सरकार की मेहनत रही है शिक्षा क्षेत्र में, उसको और बेहतर किस तरह से बनाया जा सकता है?
राइट मैं आपसे बस दो चीज़ें कहना चाहूँगा कि हम लोग एक डेवलपिंग इकोनॉमी है और वी हैव सर्टेन लिमिटेशंस अकॉर्ड जो भी फाइनेंशियल लिमिटेशंस होते हैं, बट डिस्पाइट दैट गवर्नमेंट ने ग्रेजुअली जो हमारा अगर एब्सोल्यूट नंबर्स में आप देखोगे तो धीरे धीरे एजुकेशन बजट है अक्रॉस स्कूल एजुकेशन वो बढ़ाया है। सो कमिंग बैक टू ए क्वेश्चन कि जहाँ पे हम ब्लेंडेड लर्निंग की बात कर रहे हैं, तो ड्यूरिंग कोविड हमें बहुत सारे इनोवेशंस दिखे हैं। जैसे कि नीति आयोग एक प्रोग्राम चलाता है 7E जो 3 स्टेट गवर्नमेंट्स के साथ मिलके काम कर रहे हैं। तो अभी जो मिस्टर मोहनदास पाई बोल रहे थे कि इट्स अ सेंट्रल प्लानिंग, ऐसा नहीं है। सो व्हाट वी डिड कि हमने उनके साथ कोलैबोरेट किया, उनके जो ग्राउंड रियलिटीज़ क्या है वी स्टडीड देम, और उसके बेसिस पे वी डेवलप्ड अ 3-year रोड मैप फॉर ऑल दिस 3 states, ऑल डेवलप्ड बाय द स्टेट देमसेल्व्स। वी जस्ट कोऑर्डिनेटेड एंड वी जस्ट हैंड सम सॉर्ट ऑफ टेक्निकल सपोर्ट वी प्रोवाइडेड एट नीति आयोग। तो उस पर्टिकुलर प्रोग्राम में ही हमने एक और प्रोग्राम डिजी 7 चलाया, जिसके अंतर्गत आपको ऐसा दिखा होगा, बहुत सारे पिक्चर्स वेबसाइट पे, सोशल मीडिया साइट्स पे आपने देखे होंगे, जहाँ पे झारखंड के बहुत ही दूर दराज इलाकों में खुले में बच्चों को बैठा रहे हैं और वहाँ पे थ्रू LCD और थ्रू आपको प्रोजेक्टर्स का यूज़ करते हुए और साथ ही आपके पास लाउड स्पीकर्स वगैरह यूज़ करके जो डिजिटल एजुकेशन है वो पहुँचा रहे हैं. दिस इज़ वन सॉर्ट ऑफ ब्लेंडेड लर्निंग. और अभी तक जो हमने स्टार्टिंग में एकदम डिबेट के डिस्कशन में बात किया कि सबके पास एक इंडिविजुअलाइज टैबलेट होना चाहिए, सभी एक बच्चे के पास, एक एवरी इंडिविजुअल चाइल्ड शुड हैव वन टैबलेट, राइट. बट आप इसका अगर डेटा एविडेंस देखो कि हाँ, दे डू हेल्प इन द लर्निंग आउटकम इम्प्रूवमेंट और लर्निंग में हेल्प करते हैं, बट दैट डेटा इज़ क्लोज लाइक 15 to 16% ही उसका जो लर्निंग आउटकम इम्प्रूवमेंट है वही आ पाता है. एट द सेम टाइम IIM बैंगलोर ने एक स्टडी किया इंडिया में, और भी बहुत सारे बाहर स्टडीज़ हुई हैं, जिसमें अगर आप एक LCD और लगाते हो क्लासरूम में, या यू कैन यूज़ अ प्रोजेक्टर इन ग्राम पंचायत लेवल पे, जहाँ पे ओपन स्पेसेस में ड्यूरिंग कोविड टाइम चीज़ें हो सकती हैं, तो वहाँ पे पाया गया कि जो लर्निंग आउटकम है वो भी 12 से 15% इम्प्रूव हो रही है. सो एज एन इकोनॉमी हमें सिर्फ स्पेंड नहीं करना, हमें क्वालिटी स्पेंडिंग करनी है. सो विल हैव टू लुक एट कि हमारा रिटर्न क्या आ रहा है, हमें कैसे स्पेंड करें अगर हमें सेम लेवल ऑफ इम्पैक्ट दिख रहा है, राइट. सो वी शुड बी स्पेंडिंग वाइजली, और उससे हमें मैक्सिमम रिटर्न लेना चाहिए. सो मतलब ये 2-3 चीज़ें जैसे हम ब्लेंडेड लर्निंग, लो टेक और हाई टेक का कॉम्बिनेशन करके कर सकते हैं. एंड सिमिलरली आपको कहाँ पैसे अपने डालने हैं.
नए कदम भी जो है फ्रैंक वो बहुत ही सोच समझकर अपनी लिमिटेशंस को ध्यान में रखते हुए पीयूष प्रकाश जी कह रहे हैं कि इस चीज़ का बहुत ध्यान रखना है कि स्पेंड करिए, लेकिन इट शुड बी वाइज फुल स्पेंडिंग.
Absolutely, and any kind of spending has to be wise. We'll have to see how that happens. Of course, it's easier said than done. But going forward, actually, let's go back. Let's take a step back first to take 2 steps forward. During the discussion a short while ago, Rakesh Kar, we were talking about how we should move on from bookish knowledge and mechanical learning. Maybe teach some of our children life skills at a very early age. The private institutions probably are better equipped to do that. And they also charge a rather large sum to ensure that they impart that kind of knowledge on the wards as well. How can the public sector, how can government institutions, government schools do the same from a very early age, so that we have proper, well-rounded, finished products when they go out of school, after 14-16 years?
Absolutely important to showcase life skills. I think we should institutionalize life skills as part of curriculum at all levels, because I keep saying 3 key strengths of the Indian mindset are the emotional quotient, the spiritual quotient, and the cultural quotient. All these are manifest from the life skill robustness that we have as a country. We must leverage that at all levels and do everything possible to institutionalize life skills at all levels. I would go back to that little point that Mr. Pai made. I think, India is not one market. India is not one template. It's a large market, and it comprises a market at each district. I would completely go with him in terms of having a policy, at least in terms of execution and picking up data. You could have one NEP, which we have. I have no quarrel with that. But what is important to draw the learnings from each district. And we must do a best practices counter. This country has, so many states, union territories. There are some bright officers, manning these key pieces of, execution, and we must pick up those and template them. So in that sense, it's important to decentralize education. Forget about whether it's concurrent or it is centered or state. Blend is all fine on an academic paper. On the ground, we need to template and showcase and these best practices. Another point which I wanted to showcase is that, is my plea to the finance minister, is that, this government has laid a lot of stress on empowering people at the bottom of the pyramid there. So when you say inclusive growth, equitable growth, we must talk about financial literacy. Financial independence is the key to growing the India growth story, whether economically, socially, or culturally. So we must lay a lot of emphasis on drawing some budgets for financial literacy. We need to bring a financial literacy program at the school level, at the at each level, so that people are able to understand the value of savings, investments, how to spend prudently, and what applies to the government of India applies to each individual. So in that sense, as part of the larger education menu, if life skill is an important piece, financial literacy is also a very, very important piece. For that, we need the state and the private sector also to spend heavily, so that each Indian citizen, 130 crore people, have that financial inclusion, which I think is a stated goal of the Prime Minister and the current government.
Absolutely. Anushika, very quickly, one aspect we've not touched upon, vocational education.
So I think vocational education plays a very important role. As Mr. Piyush was highlighting, that even after having digital equipments at multiple levels, the engagement rate is very low. At the same time, we need to address why is that low. We see a lot of, high level of dropout rates, people not coming in. Why is the important question? We have content, we have absolutely amazing faculties and teachers. The only thing that is missing right now here is we are not focusing on experiential education. People drop out because they don't develop interest into the education. Once they start seeing things from multiple angles, they would want to go to school and learn about multiple things, which is absolutely missing.
बिल्कुल और शायद इस एस्पेक्ट में देखें तो न्यू एजुकेशन पॉलिसी काफी कारगर साबित हो सकती है.
Absolutely. And PV Mohandas Pai, in 30 seconds, please close the show for us with your concluding remarks.
Frank, learning is asynchronous, Frank. You can always say, come to the Panchayat building, I'll play some video and you can see it doesn't happen. Please remember, how did we all learn? We went to school, we learned, we came home, we did the homework, our mothers taught us, right? Why are mothers educated? Half the kids in school don't have educated mothers. Remember, they all grew up 10, 15 years ago. So how do you have to give them an individual device? You can't take the easy way out and say cost, and ruin their future because they need help. Let us be very sanguine. Let us be very clear. And also, we need to train teachers in leadership. We've got to be very careful about how we teach children. Otherwise, we're going to waste a lot. So my view is, Government of India should allocate money, tackle big issues. This is the beginning of the decade of 20 to 30. This is going to be our decade. We have to invest in our children. We have to invest in our young people and do big things in the next 2 years. So over the next 10 years, we can see benefits. If we don't do that, the next generation, we're going to miss out the demographic dividend. Let's be very clear about that.
Absolutely. Thank you to all our guests for joining us on the program, sharing your views and putting things into perspective for us. That's it on this edition of Budget of Hope from me, Frank Razan Pereira, and Tina Jha. Until next time.
धन्यवाद.
Thank you.